The second member of the Spectator Club is the lawyer. After describing Sir Roger de Cavalier, Steele has described another companion of the club, and he is a lawyer. The name of the lawyer is not mentioned in the essay. He was also a bachelor. Steele writes, "The gentleman next in esteem and authority among us is another bachelor, who is a member of the Inner Temple, a man of great probity, wit, and understanding. Inner Temple is a place where law is taught." So he is a bachelor and he is a member of the Inner Temple. He is a man of great probity. He is having wit and understanding. But he had chosen his place of residence. He had chosen this place, the Inner Temple, rather to obey the direction of an old, humorsome father than in pursuit of his own inclination. He himself is not interested in studying law. He is living in the Inner Temple just because to obey his father's order. It shows that the father of this person wants his son to become a lawyer, but he himself is not interested in law. So, what is his interest? He was placed there to study the laws of the land and is most learned of any of the house of those of the stage. He is more interested in drama. He is interested in stage. Aristotle and Longinus are much better understood by him than Littleton or Coke. Aristotle was a famous Greek philosopher. There is a reference to his Poetics. Longinus was also Greek philosopher and grammarian of the 3rd century AD. He is best known for his book on the Sublime. So this person is more interested in Aristotle and Longinus. He understands them very well. Then Littleton or Coke. Sir Thomas Littleton was a judge who wrote a treatise on the law of property, and Sir Edward Coke published a commentary on Littleton under the title Institutes. So this person is much interested in Aristotle and Longinus, and he is not interested in Littleton or Coke. Means he is not interested in the subject of law. The father sends up every post questions relating to marriage articles, leases, and tenures in the neighborhood, all which questions he agrees with an attorney to answer and take care of in the lump. By every post, his father sent him questions. These questions are related to subject of law, like marriage article is a legal agreement regarding the property of a person about to marry. So when his father sent him questions regarding these topics, what he does, he discusses with an attorney with other person to answer them and send the answer of those questions to his father. So he himself does not bother to answer those questions. He is studying the passion themselves when he should be inquiring into the debates among men which arise from them. A lawyer inquire into the debates which arises due to passions, but this man is not interested, is not inquiring into the debates. He is studying the passion themselves. He knows the argument each of the orations of Demosthenes and Tully, but note one case in the reports of our own court. Demosthenes was Athenian orator and patriot. Tully was Roman orator, author, and politician. So this man, the lawyer, is not interested in law. He does not know even a single case of his own court, of the local court, whether He's much interested in law, much interested in drama, much interested in literature. He knows the argument or orations of Demosthenes and Tully. No one ever took him for a fool. Nobody understands, nobody thinks that he is a fool, but none except his intimate friends know he has a great deal of wit. His intimate friends, his close friends, know very well that he is having a great deal of wit. This turn makes him at once both disinterested and agreeable. Just because of this reason, he at times becomes disinterested as well as agreeable. People are agree with him, but they are also disinterested in him just because of his this nature. As few of his thoughts are drawn from business, they are most of them fit for conversation. Few of his thoughts are taken from business, and they are most of them fit for conversation. His taste for books is little too just for the age he lives in. He has read all but approves of very few. He has read many books, but he is not approved with all of them. He approves of very few. His familiarity with the customs, manners, actions, and writings of the ancients makes him a very delicate observer of what occurs to him in the present world. He is familiar with the customs, manners, actions, and writings of ancient writers. That's why he is a very delicate observer. He is having a keen observation power of what occurs to him, what appears to him in this world. He is an excellent critic, and the time of the play is his hour of business. He is not interested in law, but when it is the time of drama, it is the time of his business. Exactly at 5, he passes through New Inn, crosses through Russell Court, and takes a turn at Will's till the play begins. And he goes to Will. New Inn is a square near the Inner Temple, London. Russell Court is a narrow street in the above neighborhood, and Will's is the coffee house in Russell Street, frequented by men of letters and politicians. And the further there is introduced the Rose. The Rose is a tavern frequented by actors. So, what he does at the time of his business, that is the time of the play, exactly at 5 o'clock, he passes through New Inn, then he crosses through Russell Court and takes a turn at Will's till the play begins. He has his shoes rubbed and his periwig powdered at the barber's as you go into the Rose. When he go to watch the drama, watch the play, he gets ready for it. He has his shoes rubbed and his periwig powdered. Why? It is for the good of the audience when he is at the play, when he remains present during the play. It is very good for the audience. How? For the actors have an ambition to please him. Because he is a good critic, he is interested in stage. When he is present in the time of play, the actors have an intention, they have an ambition to please this lawyer, this person. So this is about the lawyer. We have seen that he took to the study of law in obedience to his father. He was more interested in the study of drama and dramatic criticism. The philosophers like Aristotle and Longinus were very well understood by him. His father used to send him various questions on law in order to ensure that his son is studying law. But the son outwitted the father by getting them answered through a lawyer whom he had engaged for the purpose. Nobody took him as a fool, but only his friends knew that he had a great wit. He liked to read the books which were not of the age he lived. He was familiar with the writings, custom, actions, and manners of ancient writers, which made him a keen observer of the worldly affairs. He was a good critic. His real hour of the business is the time of the play. The presence of an able critic among the audience, it arises in the actors an intention to give their best performance possible. So this is all about the second character or second member of the spectator club, that is the lawyer. Now we will discuss the third character of the spectator club, that is named here. He is Sir Andrew Freeport. Richard Steele writes, the person of next constitution is Sir Andrew Freeport, a merchant of great eminence in the city of London, a person of indefatigable industry, strong reason, and great experience. So the third member of the club is a merchant of great eminence, of great fame. He is a famous merchant in the city of London. He is a person of indefatigable industry. He is a very hard working person, having strong reason and a great experience also. His notions of trade are noble and generous. His ideas about business are noble and generous. And as every rich man has usually some sly way of jesting, which would make no great figure were he not a rich man. So this person, Sir Andrew Freeport, is also having a way of jesting, and that is, he calls the sea the British Common. He calls the sea by the name the British Common. He is acquainted with commerce in all its parts. He knows about business, about all the parts of business, and he will tell you that it is a stupid and barbarous way to extend dominion by arms. He is not in favor of fighting. If a person is expanding his dominion, expanding his area by struggle, by fighting, that is a barbarous and stupid way. For true power is to be got by art and industry. According to him, if a person is hard working and by his hard work he is extending his dominion, that is the real power. He will often argue that if this part of our trade were well cultivated, we should gain from one nation and if another from another. So he always talk about the business. He says that the particular part of the trade, if that part were well cultivated, then we should gain from one nation one thing and another from another nation. I have heard him prove that diligence makes more lasting acquisition than valor, and that sloth has ruined more nation than the sword. This is a very beautiful line. Sir Andrew Freeport proved that diligence, hard work makes more lasting effect than valor, than bravery, and sloth, laziness, has ruined more nation than the swords. The sword has not ruined the nation as laziness has ruined. He abounds in several frugal maxims. He is having many maxims regarding miserliness, and amongst which the greatest favorite is, he says, a penny saved is a penny got. If we are saving some money, that means we have earned that money. A general trader of good sense is pleasanter company than a great general scholar. And Sir Andrew, having a natural unaffected eloquence, the perspicuity of his discourse gives the same pleasure that the wit would in another man. He has made his fortune himself. He is a hard-working person and he has made his fortune himself, and says that England may be richer than other kingdoms by as plain methods as he himself is richer than other men. He is richer than other person, and the methods employed by him should be used by the nation. He says that England may be richer than other kingdoms in the same method, by following the same tricks or plain methods as he himself is richer than other persons. Though at same time I can say this of him, that there is not a point in the compass but blows home a ship in which he is an honor. It shows that he is honor of various ships. So, Sir Andrew Freeport is the third member of the Spectator Club. He is a good businessman of London. He is very laborious, experienced, and has a great understanding. His knowledge of commerce is extensive, and he has his own ideals of the ways of enlarging the country's trade. He is of the opinion that a dominion may be extended by art and industry than by power. Diligence or industry alone would help the country to gain things of permanent value, and sloth or laziness, more than the sword, had caused the ruin of many nations. He knows many short maxims. He has a unique art of speech. He is a self made person, and he believes that England too can become richer than other kingdoms by methods which has so benefited him. So this is about the third character of the Spectator Club, third member of the Spectator Club.